Okay, let's start. Alright, let's look at the slide. We're going to talk about
Sir,
some. Yes?
can we discuss the business group?
Yes, what is your confusion? Tell me.
Sir, can we discuss some of the business rules that are mentioned in slide number 3?
Slide number three. This one. Are you
Yes, sir, this
talking?
one.
Okay, so I think talking about this slide, I mean this ERT, we talked about those business rules, right?
Yes, sir, we
That
talked about it.
yes, so reading the relationship from supply to item, which is raw material in the example that I said, and also
Sir,
reading
I was
the.
trying to do them at home. I had some confusion. May I discuss them with you now?
Okay, yeah, sure. If you want to, yes, you can discuss right now. Yeah, tell me.
Sir, in the business rule for shipment to item, which is like shipment to raw materials, it says that one shipment can include, sir, multiple raw materials, or is that what it's trying to say? That one shipment can include multiple raw materials?
One shipment uh, must include multiple raw materials. It's talking about
Yes,
it.
sir. That is what it's trying to say. So, what does it mean by raw materials may or may not include multiple shipments? How does that work? I did not understand that.
Okay, so there are like say a lot of raw materials, right? Maybe 100 types of. Okay, and if, for example, the delivery method, the shipment method is say using a truck, okay, or a delivery van, something like that. Practically think that is it possible that to ship all raw materials in one delivery van?
No, sir, it's not possible.
It's not possible, right? So it is saying that in shipment, you may or may not have a specific raw material. That's what it's talking about.
Okay, sir, understood.
Next, any other confusion?
Sir, it's between sir order and product.
Sorry.
Sir, between order and products. So I understand that one order can have like many products.
One order can have many
Sir, one
products.
order will have sir many sir products that the person will like order.
Okay, so one order can have many products, but at least it has to be one.
Yes, sir. At least one.
At least
So it
one.
has
That's
to be
why
sir.
it is. That's why it is mandatory.
Yes, sir. ওটা বুঝতে পারবি আমি ওটা বুঝিনি যে স্যার প্রোডাক্টের মধ্যে মে অর মে নট হ্যাভ ওয়ান অর্ডার ডাজ ইট মিন দ্যাট স্যার যদি আমাদের প্রোডাক্টটা না থাকে তাহলে হচ্ছে লাইক অর্ডারটা ফুলফিল হচ্ছে না এটাই জাস্ট বুঝাইতে চাচ্ছি রাইট
প্রোডাক্ট না থাকলে তো অর্ডার হবেই না। অর্ডার উইল বি প্লেস দ্যাট টাইম অনলি ইফ দেয়ার ইজ এ প্রোডাক্ট।
স্যার আমি অর্ডার অর্ডার টু প্রোডাক্টের প্রোডাক্ট টু অর্ডারের রিলেশনশিপটা আমি বুঝবো
Product to order.
ইয়েস
So
স্যার
simply it is saying that every customer is not ordering every types of product at the same time, right?
ইয়েস স্যার
So one product it may be included in multiple orders. It may be included in one order. It may not be included in uh, any of the order at all. That's what it's talking about.
Oh, okay, sir, understood.
Okay.
Yes, sir, then I don't have any more confusion.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Let's talk about some basics year notations. All right. Let's take this slide. Okay. So we already covered this relationship cardinality for multiple times. This relationship cardinality we already know about that. One to one, one to many, many to many, and with the their mandatory and the optional symbol. We know about this already. Okay. Let's talk about different types of attributes. Don't worry about this entity type of weak entity. It is not necessary to understand. And in our ERT or in the lab class, we will have no application of this weak entity. Okay, forget about this one. This is the normal entity. Okay, this is the associative entity with the rounded rectangular. Okay, that I already said earlier. Let's talk about this one. Different types of attributes and different types of relationship degrees, which are new today. Okay, so let's look at attributes. Identifier, partial identifier, optional attribute, derived attribute, multivariate, and composite. Identifier simply means primary key. Okay, and I hope you all remember what is the primary key. In chapter 1, I did cover this concept. Partial identifier with a double underline. Okay, it is or it can be a part of the main primary key. Okay, so there is an example that what can be a partial identifier, and the partial identifier is not that much common in entities. You will not see many of the partial identifier in examples. Okay. Now let's look at an example how partial identifier works. Say flight details. Okay, from an airline company, they have an entity called flight details.
Sir,
Yes,
sir, আজাদ ছবি
yes.
স্যার মাসে পরদিন ক্লাসটা স্টার্ট মানে লেকচারটা শুরু করেন
Are you feeling disturbed?
আর ইয়েস স্যার
Okay. So think about the domestic flight in our country. Okay. So say Nova Air. Okay. They have some specific domestic flight number for all specific routes. Okay. Say at 1 p.m. every day, Nova Air operates flight from Dhaka to Chittagong in the name of say uh, RX704. Okay, and this flight ID between Dhaka and Chittagong, it is always same. Okay, now say flight date is 20 February 2022 and the number of passengers were 30. Okay, now tell me in this record which one is your primary key.
Flight ID.
Okay, let's write it down. Primary key, flight ID is our primary key. Now, on 22nd February, say the same flight between Dhaka Chittagong. The flight ID in airline industry would always be the same for every route. Okay, the same flight it is also operating on the other day, which is 22nd February, and the number of passengers were say 35, for example. Now, there is a property of the primary key, and that property is, let me write it down. That property is primary key or the identifier key cannot be duplicated. That means the RX704 that we are looking at, it cannot be written as the second primary key in the next record, or it can be written, but to make every each of these RX704 as the primary key, you will need to include another attribute or introduce another attribute as the part of this main primary key. Okay, so what you can do in this case, this flight date, it can be announced as your partial primary key or partial identifier, and this is the main identifier. So now this RX704 flight between Dhaka and Chittagong, it is being operated almost on every day in a year. Now you want to know say passenger detail from a specific date. Okay. Now there is many RX704. Which dates RX704 details you want to know? Okay, and to be able to do that, this flight date has to be the part of this primary key, and hence flight date is called partial identifier. Okay,
Sir, I have a question.
yes,
Sir, so basically we cannot duplicate the primary keys, right? Because
you
we
will
will.
never be, yes, you will never be able to write the primary key for multiple times in an entity.
So then we
Okay,
have to declare the some other attribute as a partial
partial
identifier, right?
identifier. So why cannot we duplicate in this case? Because RX704 flight is available on every day, right? If you need to know about that flight for a specific date, which RX704 you are going to select, right?
Yes, sir.
Because of that duplication, you have to include flight date as a partial identifier, okay, and uh, allow it as a partial identifier with this flight ID primary key, which is the main identifier. That's the concept of partial identifier. Optional,
Sir, I have another question.
yes.
Sir, for primary key, we have to underline the attributes, right?
Hmm?
If we underline the attributes, then it can be declared as a primary key, right?
Yes, single underline primary key, double underline partial identifier.
Okay, sir, understood.
Optional attributes means that in some tables you will have some attributes which are optional. That means recording data under those attributes is optional. For example, you have a table on students, okay, and you have student ID, student name, student cell phone number, student's land phone number, email, etc., etc. Okay, so land phone number nowadays is optional. Why? Because many of the students or the family do not use land phone anymore. Okay, so in metadata, we are going to say that the specific attribute is optional. That means you can skip recording data under that optional attribute. It's as simple as that.
So if we declare a flight date as a partial identifier, then we can duplicate the flight ID, right?
Okay.
So if we declare flight date as a partial identifier, then we can duplicate the flight key and like the flight date. Then it is okay if we duplicate the
Yes.
primary key.
Yeah.
Okay, sir, understood.
Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
প্রাইমারি কিন্তু আমরা দুইবার ইউজ করতে পারবো না, তাই না?
Primary key,
দুইবার ইউজ করতে পারবো না, মানে ডুপ্লিকেট করতে পারবো না।
মানে duplicate করতে পারবা না, but in this case you can duplicate, but you will have to uh, you have to declare another attribute as your second primary key, which is the partial identifier.
ওকে।
Derived attribute. So derived attribute means data for these attributes. ये क्लास है? Treated. Okay. So data of this derived attribute, they depend on the other attribute. Okay. Let me show this example. So this slide has two kinds of attributes, derived and multi-value. Let me take this. Okay, so look at this employee entity. We have employee ID, employee name, payroll address, date employed, skill, and years employed. Okay, so this years employed, it is defined as derived attribute. Why? So, for example, an employee joined your organization, say January 1, 2021. Okay, it will be recorded under this attribute date employed. এই দিন এই এমপ্লয়িটাকে তুমি হায়ার করেছো or she join করেছো, whatever you say. So the years employed, okay, this data will be here depending on the calculation from the date employed. That means you do not need to enter any data under years employed. So January 2021 এ হচ্ছে hire করেছো, now it is 2022. So years employed will be shown as 1 year. Okay. So in metadata, the calculation part has to be done so that depending on the data in date employed, okay, your database, I mean the employee entity, can calculate how many years that specific employee is working. Okay, this is derived attribute. Also, you can say age, okay, current age. That is also an example of derived attribute. And what else?
Sir, could you explain it again? I didn't understand what derived attributes are.
Derived attribute means the data, it will be updated, okay, according to the other attributes data. So in this case, years employed, right? If an employee was hired, say on January 2021, okay, which will be recorded here, okay, then what is the years employed now? 1 year, right?
Yes, sir. Also, so basically, the years employed is depend the date of employment.
Yes,
That is
exactly.
what it's trying to say.
Yes.
Okay, sir, understood.
So current age, for example, another attribute, it will be dependent on the other attribute. What would be that other attribute? Date of birth. Okay. If you have an attribute date of birth and the other attribute called age, then that age will be calculated as per the data that you have under the date of birth attribute. Okay, that is your derived attribute. Multi-valued attribute, skills. Okay, so this skill attribute means that an employee can have multiple skills. Okay, if you are running an IT company, say for example, that employee, say he is an expert in multiple types of programming language. Okay, say he is also skilled in say database designs or something like that. Okay, so let's write the example like this. So this is your employee ID and this is skills, the attribute. Say employee ID 100, he knows the skills. Okay, there will be another table on skill also. Okay, so skill ID 100, say C++, skill ID 101, say Python language, okay, and so on. So this employee ID 1001, say he knows both programming language 100 and 101. Employee ID say another one 1002, he just knows 100. Okay. Now tell me, do you see any kind of problem in this data recording in this employee ID and skill attribute?
Yes, sir, there is common.
Sir, there is a duplication, sir. They used comma to include, sir, two
Exactly.
entities in a field.
Exactly. So obviously that means this skill ID is a foreign key and skill ID is the primary key. This skill ID is foreign key in employee table and the skill ID in skill table is what? The primary key, right? Foreign key and primary key. So since we have a situation of this comma, then what is the relationship between skill and the employee table? Can anyone tell me?
So could you repeat the question? I couldn't read it.
Did you understand?
না স্যার কথাটা শুনতে পাইনি একটু কেটে কেটে আসছে একো হচ্ছে তো একটু বোঝা যায় না ঠিক করে
What is the relationship between skill and employee table?
So one to many.
or one to many one employee can have many skills.
Why?
Sorry sir, could you repeat?
Why? Why
Sir,
it's not
because
many?
one employee can have many skills sir.
Why it's not many to many? One employee can have many skills, and one skill can be earned by many employees, right? What about this? Skill ID 100, skill ID 100. It is known by two employees, and among those employees, one employee knows multiple skills. It's not in many to many.
Sir it is.
Exactly. It is many to many. So when you see that an attribute is declared as multi-valued attribute, okay, directly you will say that there is a many to many relationship. Okay,
Yes sir.
just like the relationship between student and course. Okay, the course ID in the student table is an example of multi-valued. Okay, there is another type of attribute. Look at this employee name, right? Within the bracket, it's a notification. It's a notation. This notation is called.
Sir, could you explain multi-value attributes again in like a short way? Like, what do we call it in simple terms?
Okay, what is your confusion? Tell me.
So multi-value, sir, basically it can be included in multiple
Multi-valued
reference.
attribute হচ্ছে that একটা specific attribute data it can be shown in many rows in a specific table.
Yes, sir, that is it, right? After each one, right?
No. And when there is a multi-valued attribute, you always have to figure out that it is the part of the many-to-many relationship. Okay.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Okay. So employee names, you see that on the right side of employee name, we have a notation like this, bracket with three dots. Okay. This kind of attribute is called a composite attribute. Composite attribute means this attribute has multiple parts. Okay, and it can be divided into multiple single attributes. Now tell me, employee name, it can be divided into multiple parts. What are those parts? Can you not tell me?
So first name, last name, middle name.
First name, mostly first name and last name, middle name অনেকে use করে না। Okay, first name and last name, very good. What about employee's address? Why it is composite? How do you write the address? Apartment number,
So address would be right like the road number, then the house number, then the flat house details and
so
everything else.
you write address
Like
separated by
postal code.
separated by commas, right?
Yes,
But
sir.
database says that we don't allow comma. Then what do you have to do? You will have to separate each part of an address as an attribute. House, apartment number, one attribute. House number, another attribute. Road number, another attribute. Block, another attribute. Residential area, another attribute. City, another attribute. Postal code, another attribute. Okay. So there's the example of composite attribute. Okay. Let's look at some other examples. So required versus optionals, as I already said, that in metadata, if you in metadata, if you say that required, then you will never be able to skip recording under a specific attribute. Required means তোমাকে কিছু রেকর্ড করতেই হবে। যখন অপশনাল বলা হবে, ফর এক্সাম্পল in this student entity, major is declared as the optional attribute. That means student day one এ কখনো major declare করবে না। He can do that anytime, maybe after year one or year two of his university studies. Okay, that is why it has been kept as optional attribute. Okay. Composite attribute, I discussed about this, that why address is an attribute, because you have multiple parts separated by comma, and database do not understand comma, and that's why street address, city, state, zip code, all of them are declared as separate attribute. Multi
Sir, এখানে কিন্তু কমা দিয়ে দেখাচ্ছিল কেন স্যার?
না, কমা দিয়ে তো হবে না।
So এখানে দেখাচ্ছে কেন? Also, this is just an example, sir.
এখানে দেখাচ্ছে কেন, I mean it is trying to make you understand why it is composite, okay, and why this composite attribute not allowed in database, and what is the solution?
Okay, sir.
Keep those
Yes, sir.
part of composite attributes in different column. Okay, okay, we covered this one also, multi-valued and derived. Okay. Let me show an example of multi-valued. Here it is. Employee and course table. Okay. See many-to-many relationship. It is a perfect example of multi-valued. Any many-to-many relationship will have a situation of multi-valued attribute. Okay. Identifiers. Okay, let's talk about identifiers. Identifiers means, as we already know, it is a primary key or key field. Identifier has many names. Let me repeat that. Identifier, key field, primary key, all these terms are same. Okay. So identifier, it uniquely identifies an individual entity or individual person or
Sir,
say.
could you go back and show the names of the primary key, sir? Identified key.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Understood. You can move on to the next one.
Okay, so an identifier, what does it do? It identifies a person, say in a student table, you are identifying a specific student with his or her ID, and that is unique to only that student. আরেকটা স্টুডেন্টের জন্য সেম স্টুডেন্ট আইডি কখনোই হবে না। ওকে, নাও this identifier can be two types: simple versus composite. Okay, remember the example that we talked about here. Flight ID and flight date. That flight with the flight ID, flight date is also an identifier. Remember about that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is an example of composite identifier. The two attributes are working as one identifier. Okay, and simple identifier means one attribute working as one identifier. Okay, for example, student ID.
Sir, when two attributes are working as two identifiers, that is
Composite.
composite.
Yeah. If you understand this concept of composite attribute, the same concept is applicable for the composite identifier. Okay, that's all. Okay, criteria for identifiers. What can be your primary key? What cannot be your primary key? And what are the characteristics of a primary key? Okay, look at this very carefully. Choose an attribute as your identifier which will not change in value. So, for example, your student ID, is it going to change ever?
No, sir.
No, it will be same for your whole lifetime. তুমি যতবারই নর্সাল থেকে তোমার, for example, you are taking official transcripts from নর্সাল, okay, your ID will be yours. It will not be changed. The value will not change at all. That is the number one criteria of a primary key. Second criteria will not be now. What does it mean? Can anyone tell me?
The value never is zero.
Exactly. So, whenever an attribute is a primary key, that means under that primary key there will be some values for every student. For example, there will be no student without a student ID. That's what it's talking about. And when you are choosing an identifier, avoid intelligent identifiers. I talked about these intelligent identifiers earlier in one of the classes. Intelligent identifier means there are some attributes of which the value may change. For example, a student's present address can change, right?
Yes,
So,
sir.
since the value of address may change, okay, it cannot be a part of or it cannot be declared as your identifier, okay, because value is changing, and one of the criteria is of the identifier is will not change in value. So এই জন্য অ্যাড্রেসকে আমরা কখনো আইডেন্টিফায়ার বলতে পারবো না, প্রাইমারি কি ভ্যালু কখনো চেঞ্জ হতে পারবে না।
স্যার
দ্যাটস দ্য ক্রাইটেরিয়া। ইয়েস,
স্যার আগের যে ফ্লাইটে ওটা তো ট্রেন চলছে তো কেন আমরা আইডেন্টিফাই করতে
বুঝি নাকি?
স্যার ফ্লাইটের যেটা আছে ওটা তো ট্রেন চলছে না তো ওইটাকে আমরা আইডেন্টিফাই করতে
ফ্লাইট ডেট
হ্যাঁ
ক্লাসের শুরুতেই তো এটা একটা ডিসকাশন হয়েছে, তুমি মিস করেছো?
স্যার আপনি বলছেন যে আইডেন্টিফাই করতে
তোমার কথাটা ক্লিয়ার না, আবার বলবা?
স্যার আপনি যেটা বললেন না যে দুইটা অ্যাট্রিবিউট একই হিসেবে হচ্ছে আইডেন্টিফায়ার হিসেবে কাজ করতেছে,
হুম।
তো স্যার ওখানে তো হচ্ছে আপনার আইডেন্টি চেঞ্জ হচ্ছে, তাহলে ওইটা কেন আইডেন্টিফায়ার মধ্যে ঢুকতেছে?
না না, তোমার 21 ফেব্রুয়ারিতে যদি ফ্লাইট হয়, হ্যাঁ, ওই ফ্লাইটের ডেটা কি পরে চেঞ্জ হবে?
ও নো স্যার।
দ্যাটস হোয়াট আই এম টকিং অ্যাবাউট।
ও
মানে
ওকে
তোমার
স্যার।
একটা স্পেসিফিক ডেটা কখনোই চেঞ্জ হবে না। ইফ ইট ইজ আ পার্ট অফ দ্য প্রাইমারি কি, ইট উইল নেভার চেঞ্জ। তো তোমার 21 ফেব্রুয়ারিতে তুমি একটা স্পেসিফিক ফ্লাইট অপারেট করছো, এটা তো আর চেঞ্জ হচ্ছে না, রাইট? ওই দিন ওটা তুমি
ইয়েস স্যার, তাই হবে।
ওই সার্ভিসটা তুমি দিয়ে দিয়েছো, ওই সার্ভিসটা কিছু প্যাসেঞ্জার্সকে দিয়ে দিয়েছো। দ্যাটস হোয়াট আই এম টকিং অ্যাবাউট। But yes, this date is changing. Why? Because also on other date you are providing the flight service to the passengers, right? We are not talking about that change. We are talking about one change within one field. Okay. 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 So in our example, as I said, that since it is impossible with the same flight ID RX704, okay, with this primary key, we really cannot detect some specific data requirement that এই RX704 এর ওই ডেটটাতে কয়জন প্যাসেঞ্জার ছিল, okay, because there are many RX704 flight ID. That's why what we did, we included another attribute and declared that attribute as a primary key with flight ID. Okay, so always মনে রাখবা, যদি একটা প্রাইমারি কি দিয়ে তোমার ডেটা ডিফাইন করা না যায়, then you can always include another attribute and make it your primary key. That's what it's talking about. Okay. So usually this will not be the case in maximum situation. সো এক্সাম্পলের জন্য এটা বোঝানো হচ্ছে, আমরা যে ইআরটিটা করবো ওখানে আমাদের এই কম্পোজিট অ্যাট্রিবিউটের সরি কম্পোজিট আইডেন্টিফায়ার সিচুয়েশনটা খুব একটা থাকবে না। ওকে, okay, in this slide we are looking at two attributes: simple identifier attribute, that means a single primary key, student ID; composite attribute, flight ID, which is divided into flight number and date. এই যে এক্সাম্পলটা যেটা আমি অলরেডি দিয়েছি, ফ্লাইট নাম্বার অ্যান্ড ডেট। সো এখানে ফ্লাইট নাম্বার, ফ্লাইট ডেট দুটোই হচ্ছে আমার প্রাইমারি কি। ওকে, যেহেতু শুধু একটা ফ্লাইট নাম্বার দিয়ে আমি কোনো ডেটা আইডেন্টিফাই করতে পারবো না। Defining attribute, state what the attribute is and possibly why it is important. So when you are working as a database designer, obviously you are defining the name of the attribute in a specific table. Okay, so say you as a database designer, you will have to show your work to your boss who is working as database administrator. Okay, so there might be some attributes which are not, which may not have any meaning. That's why you will need to input what a document detailing the purpose of the attribute. The ওই স্পেসিফিক অ্যাট্রিবিউটটা আমার কেন টেবিলে আছে, এটা একটা ডেসক্রিপশনটা দিতে হতে পারে, if it is necessary. It's not mandatory, but if it is necessary, you can do that. And in metadata, as I showed you earlier, what kind of data you can include, what would be the data size for each attribute, okay. And state source of values means কোন ডিপার্টমেন্ট থেকে ওই অ্যাট্রিবিউটের ভ্যালুটা আসবে, you can also include that in your metadata. So minimum and maximum number for that attribute. Remember about that class cluster table.
Yes,
We
sir.
should
Yeah,
maximum
metadata that we include.
yes, maximum GPA is 4, minimum is 0. Okay, so this slide is basically talking about mostly about what can you include in attribute. Okay, what are the data source of each attributes data size, data type, etc. etc. Okay, and primary key and foreign key. Okay, which attribute is your primary key, and on that table which attribute is your foreign key, and because of that foreign key, with which table your current table is getting related. That's what we are going to talk about, and in that way you basically are performing another activity called modeling relationships. Okay, so in relationships, what do you have? You determine whether the relationship is going to one to one, one to many to many, right? I already showed many examples of the relationships. But while doing the relationship, there is an important concept called degree of relationships: unary, binary, ternary. This relationship ternary is rare, and we will not have a lot of it. Even in our ERD, there is no example of ternary relationship. Mostly, you are going to look at unary and binary. So let's understand this. What is unary and what is binary? Unary relationship degree. Unary relationship degree. Unary relationship degree says that a specific relationship is available within one table. Binary relationship says that binary relationship degree, it says that relationship is established relationship is established between two tables. So one table and two tables. So how it is possible that within one table you can have a relationship? Okay, we already know about binary relationship, and for example, a relationship between product and category. One category can have many products, one to many relationship. So এখানে দুইটা টেবিলের মধ্যে একটা রিলেশনশিপ আছে, simple as that. But we never had a chance to talk about unary, that একটা টেবিলে একটা রিলেশনশিপ কিভাবে হতে পারে. Let's talk about an example. So say employee table, we have attribute called employee ID, employee name, designation, okay, supervisor ID. So unary relationship, as I said, that the relationship is within one table. That means in that table, whatever the attribute you have as your primary key, that has to be written as your foreign key in that same table. Now let's look at this trick. You need to figure out which one is your foreign key. Look at some record and try to understand. Say employee ID 100, employee name is say uh, Mac, his designation is say CEO, okay, and supervisor ID is going to be now. Employee ID say 101. His name is say John. He is working as say marketing manager. Now tell me, this marketing manager, is he working under CEO? Definitely, right? CEO,
Yes, sir.
he is the head for all departments manager. Then in the supervisor ID, what would you write? Because he is reporting to CEO, right? In the supervisor ID, what will you write? This employee ID. Okay, that means employee ID is my primary key, which is replicated as foreign key using this attribute called supervisor ID. Does it make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's draw more examples, more record. You will understand better. 102 say
Sir,
Sarah.
I have a question. Aren't we duplicating the primary key in the same table?
I mean, you are not duplicating. You are declaring that same primary key as foreign key within this table.
Okay, sir, understand.
Because one employee is working under another employee. That's the concept we're talking about. Okay.
Yes, sir, understood
So
it.
Sarah, say he is working as sales manager. Okay. She is also reporting to CEO. Okay. Now say employee ID 103, say Alex. He is working as marketing officer, right? Marketing officer. So what will you write in supervisor ID? 101, because his boss is who? Marketing?
The CEO, sir.
No, marketing manager. Okay, marketing officer is working under whom? Marketing
Sir, marketing
manager.
manager. So,
Exactly.
101.
101. Now say there is another marketing officer, uh, say Kareem. He is also working as marketing officer, and he is also reporting to whom? Same marketing officer. Okay. Now see that we are looking at a situation where one employee can supervise multiple employees. একটা বসের আন্ডারে মাল্টিপল এমপ্লয়িজ কাজ করছে, then what will be the relationship in this table? One to many. Very good.
Sir, one. Yes, sir.
Under one supervisor, many employees can work. This is the example. This is an example of unary relationship degree. Okay. So unary relationship degree বলে that একই টেবিলের মধ্যে আমার একটা রিলেশনশিপ অ্যাভেলেবল থাকবে, দ্যাট মিন্স ওই টেবিলে যেটা আমার প্রাইমারি কি সেটাই হচ্ছে আমার ফরেন কি। তো ওই ফরেন কিটা একটু ডিফারেন্ট নেম দিতে হবে, বাট মিনিং ইজ সেম। দুইটা নেমের মিনিং সেম। ওকে, রেপ্লিকেট করছি, এই আর কিছু না। সি ইফ ইউ এনি কনফিউশন ইন দিস ইউনারি রিলেশনশিপ ডিগ্রি। Anyone, any confusion?
Sir, what is Kareem's designation?
Marketing officer. So he is
Okay,
also
sir.
working under marketing manager. So two marketing officers working under one marketing manager, one to many. Marketing manager and sales manager, both of them working under CEO. Again, one to many. Okay.
Sir, do we have to show the relationship like they're showing one is to many through the lines? Is
Yeah,
that also mandatory?
the line that I showed in this example. This way you can show the relationship within one table.
Okay, sir.
That's what about others? Any confusion so far from today's lecture? Jamal Jangir,
Yes, sir.
any confusion?
No, sir. I'm just sir.
Okay. Mashrooq,
Yes, sir.
is everything fine?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Waliur Rahman,
Yes, sir.
okay, understood? Like for this?
Yes.
Okay, okay, very good. Okay, so unary, and we did cover many examples of binary relationship degree, that relationship between two tables. Okay, so you have a couple of slides on unary and binary. So this slide is showing some more examples of unary relationship. Person entity one to one. What is it showing? One person is married to another person. That means this is saying that at one time you can be married to only one person. Okay. Obviously, depending on the culture, depending on the country's law, this may change. একজন একজনের multiple wives থাকতেই পারে, where it is applicable. So there are, for example. Okay. So this is an American book written by American author. তো আমেরিকাতে হচ্ছে তুমি যদি আরেকটা বিয়ে করতে চাও, then you will have to divorce the first one. Okay, that's why it is showing one to one. All right, one to many, as I showed. One employee manages one.
Why this book? Sir?
Huh?
So we write by this book.
এই বুকটা
Say book to follow করে না আমি
American হ্যাঁ. So the examples are American. One to many এটাও শো করেছি, one to one এটাও শো করেছি. Binary, so you understand binary already. One product category has multiple products, one to many. One employee is assigned one parking space. এটা একটা এক্সাম্পল আমি চ্যাপ্টার 1 এ দিয়েছিলাম, দ্যাট প্রত্যেকটা এমপ্লয়ির জন্য একটা পার্কিং স্পেস ডেজিগনেট করা থাকবে, ফিক্স করা থাকবে। ওকে, ওয়ান টু ওয়ান। Many to many between student and course. One student can take many courses. One course can be taken by multiple students. You can omit this example ternary relationship. It is not important for our coursework. Okay. Ternary relationship ta lagbe na. And in our lab there will be no situation, no case of ternary. So avoid that one. Now let's look at this one. Some examples of cardinalities. Mandatory cardinalities. We have four cardinalities, right? Mandatory cardinalities and optional cardinalities. So two cardinalities, mandatory and optional. So we can have mandatory one, mandatory many, optional one, and optional many. Okay, let's look at these mandatory cardinalities. Patient and patient history. One patient can have multiple patient history and both are mandatory. Why? If there is a patient history in your medical database, that means it is assigned to one patient, not multiple patient. একটা history কিন্তু multiple patient কখনোই হতে পারে না, বাট একটা পেশেন্টের multiple history হতেই পারে if he is visiting for in your hospital, if he visiting your hospital for multiple times. So business rules are written here. A patient history is recorded for one and only patient. A patient must have recorded at least one history and can have many. These are the business rules for this situation. Okay, let's look at one optional and one mandatory. Many to many relationship between employee and project. Optional with project, mandatory with employee. So look at the business rule. A project must be assigned to at least one employee. If there is, say, you are running an IT company and you are developing software for multiple companies. So for each company, the software that you are developing, they are considered as one project. একটা সফটওয়্যার প্রজেক্ট যদি থাকে তো সেক্ষেত্রে অ্যাটলিস্ট একটা এমপ্লয়ি হতেই হবে বাট দেয়ার ক্যান বি মেনি বাট প্র্যাকটিক্যালি দেয়ার আর মেনি এমপ্লয়িজ ফর আ সফটওয়্যার প্রজেক্ট. So the business rule again, let's look at it. A project must be assigned to at least one employee or it can have many. Okay, ওই at least one এর জন্য আমার ম্যান্ডেটরি হয়েছে
So sir, there can be many employees.
কারণ এমপ্লয়ি ছাড়া তো কোনো প্রজেক্ট রান করবে না, একজন হতেই হবে, এটার জন্যই হচ্ছে আমার ম্যান্ডেটরি. নাও why this one is optional, let's look at the business rule. An employee can be assigned to any number of projects or may not be assigned to not any project. একটা কোম্পানির সব এমপ্লয়ি সব প্রজেক্টে থাকতে পারে, আবার একটা এমপ্লয়ি কোনো প্রজেক্টে নাও থাকতে পারে. ফর এক্সাম্পল সিইও, he is not directly working with any project, he is supervising all the projects. Okay, that's what it's talking about. Look at this one, optional cardinalities. So the example was a person is married to another person, both way optional. Why? Actor person, he can get married or he may not get married at all. It is completely optional. Okay. Huh?
Like someone.
So আর কি কি হতে পারে অপশনাল কার্ডিনালিটিস? অনেক রকম. I mean, yes, we will have some more situations where we can discuss this. So, and what else?
Like for example, like in games, when you play games, you can buy skin for a guy, or you can buy. So you can play that.
Yeah, that is also. নাও কিনতে পারি, হ্যাঁ. সো গেমসের সফটওয়্যার যে ডেটাবেসটা, তো ডেটাবেসে কিন্তু এটা ডিজাইন করা থাকে that this person or this player can buy a specific uniform or may not buy at all. Okay, আমি চাইলে একেবারে নাও কিনতে পারি. Okay, so optional cardinalities, one optional, one mandatory and mandatory. Okay, any questions so far for today? Anyone?
No, sir.
Okay. So I want to stop here for today because I believe we have covered a lot of concepts. I want you guys to go through those concepts and ask me question in the next class. And in this class, we will be done with this chapter. Okay. We are left with like hardly 4 slides. Okay. Ask and complete. We can stop here. If you have any question, you can ask.